Hi there. In our previous reel in relation to the server-side events, we showed you a chat application that was developed using SSE and PHP. So what we decided to do is to decouple that application and have a portal. A portal will be like a command center in relation to it being plug and play. So what you can do here is to specify your settings in relation to the application name, the URL, where is it going to run, the driver in relation to the driver that you're going to use, the host, and then the username and the password. And then you can have your key, like you can generate another key here and things like that. And then you can save the settings that you want to save. So this is based on the configuration of the api.php file, and when you are specifying connection parameters. So we're using this master key as an auth key across the applications that we will create, which basically our chat simulation was using the same approach. Now we added the mail system here because most of the cases when you want to do an application and you want to have functionalities for emails and all sorts of things, you have to do things differently, using different tools. So what we're doing here is just to have a dashboard where you're going to set up all your parameters for your particular application. For example, this, you'll have to specify your sender name, sender address, and then whether it's using SMTP, and then the host, and then the settings. Now, what usually happens here is PHP has a built-in mail sending tool. Most of the cases, these tools do not have a delivery confirmation, So when you use SMTP, at least there is a level of comfort that that email will be delivered, as much as you won't get a confirmation here. So what we've done also is to build templates here in relation to when you want to send an email verification template, then you can send it. Like for example, here you can design your template to be whatever way you want it to be. And then when it's sent out when you are registering a new user, then it sends it out and then it will execute that code to verify your email address as well. So this is part of authentication, and then password reset, and then the other part is email change confirmation. So these are all part of the authentication processes, and all of these things uses tokens. Now, the other part that we demonstrated with the chat application was server-side events. Now, what happens here is we build up this system from scratch in relation to how these server-side events work. For example, now this is enabled, and then we can configure it to run on different ports and all sorts of other things, like for example, the idle timeout, whether it has a heartbeat. You see, this is 5 minutes, and then this is 30 seconds. Yeah, and then this is self-cleaning and all sorts of other things. Now, you start the SSA server by clicking hard start. So what's going to do, it'll notify you that it has started. And then you can pause it, and then you can also resume it if you want, So what happens then, it tells you that this is the process ID that it is running on. And then this is the API endpoint. It basically means that when you're using fetch, you are going to call the endpoints using this URL. But this is done internally within the system. But because this is the administration screen, it just shows you some of the details that I think. Now, the stream URL is this one, and then the UTP. We're using UTP to do a wake-up call to the server because we're not necessarily configuring the server to rely much on polling and all sorts of things. Like for example, here, we managed to make this to work as a hybrid. Basically, it basically means that you can turn it on and off. So for example, if you decide that you don't want the database to be polled, then you can switch it off and things like that to ensure that there's no much load. But we have set it up now so that in case that there's some packets that are lost, then still the clients that are connected can always get the information, you know. But at least this is better now because we have an idle timeout and things. The idle timeout is used when the connections are connected, but then they fall off. For example, someone forgot to close their computer and things like that. So after 5 minutes of not connecting to the server, then it cleans itself automatically. So the other section is the security and tokens. For example, the tokens that gets used to send emails or perform functions within the system are generated here. So for example, you can generate a token and then this tells you that this one is expiring in 14 days. So this is just part of the dashboard that we have created now to manage deployments. For example, the tool itself is plug and play. So it basically means that with the tool, you plug it into your application, your backend application, and then it's able to produce SSE for you. It's able to produce your REST API for your CRUD functionalities for your database, and then it's able to create your administrators and users. It basically means that your system can have an authentication uh, section for it by just plugging in this particular portal. You don't have to create anything other than just link this particular portal to the database, and then you get connected to it. And then the SSE, of course, you can disable it, and then it will be execute a hard stop, which means basically it's stopping the processes that are there. If you recall, with our chat demo, for example, now if you connect here, it won't be able to connect. If you even start the podcast, it won't be able to connect because, as you can see here, the server is down. But let's do a hard start here, you know. So it's running now. And then if you go here, we'll discover that we've disabled it. Yeah. So it's running now automatically, picked up that it's running. So what is happening now is that if we start the podcast, then the podcast will actually run. Like, for example, you see here that Hey Bob is typing and all sorts of other things. So this is the kind of applications that you are able to create and able to do. This one is done with Tailwind and Daisy UI, with vanilla JavaScript. And that's how basically it works. We want to implement an auditing framework in relation to the databases that we're going to be creating. And the thing about this tool is each and every time I want to create another CRUD based application, I'm not going to have to rewrite some of the things because I've already done them here. I've done it once and it will work across the board. If I want SSE to be activated or subscriptions, then that will be running. If I want to send emails, I'm going to be able to send emails from a single point, whether I want to send it via SMTP or via the built-in PHP functionality, and then send the verification emails in terms of user authentication and things. And then what happens is, for example, if you send an email verification, the person won't be able to log into the system until their email is verified. So with the authentication of users and admins, the system will send the person a token with a link to say that click here to verify your account, and then that's only then that the person will be able to log into the account that they are allocated. And then the system itself generates passwords, hashes. If, for example, you specify a password for a particular person, but those are functionalities that are going to be added into the dashboard to make sure that for whoever wants to develop applications using a PHP backend, with MySQL, or a SQLite or Postgres, something like that, then can use this particular portal to get up and going. It basically means that one does not need to worry about backends when they are creating their full stack applications. The only thing that they need to actually concentrate on is their user interface, and then the connections to the database to their user interface is done via REST APIs, using the PHP CRUD API. So this is it for now in relation to how this dashboard works, this portal works. However, there's an ebook that is accompanying this portal in relation to explaining the whole concept about the giant API engine. So the book itself, we've been working on it and things. So it follows a story, a bedtime story, kind of an approach in terms of it being written. And then we're using analogies and things like that to make it very simple that anyone who reads it and things like that is able to understand it. It does have technical terms, of course, does have a glossary of the terms that we're using, but I think it's things that you will understand. Like, for example, the table of contents here, and then there's some code that has been added in this book. Like, for example, here it's showing how to perform a fetch, and then we talk about CRUD here, and then some other pictures here, bouncers, and then we talk about the mailbox. We try to make the book to be intuitive as much as possible, and then we spoke about a lot of things because there's quite a process in developing the SSC server for this, in developing the other controllers that we added, and then to the tool itself to make sure that it works. Because the idea is to make it plug and play as much as possible. We've received some inspirations about this, in creating something like this. But yeah, so this is it for now. And thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for your time in relation to taking time to actually go through this video. All right then, have a good day. Bye.